welcome back to Seconds Out. Happy New Year, first of all. It's me, Joshua Hart, and today I'm going to be bringing you my 2024 awards. I'm going to be bringing you my Fighter of the Year, my Fight of the Year, my KO of the Year, Upset of the Year, and Round of the Year for 2024. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with my award winners and honourable mentions. I'm doing two honourable mentions, then the award itself. And I'm going to dive straight in. I'm going to go with Fight of the Year first of all. So, my honourable mention, I'm going with Better Biev versus Bivol. A fight that was a lot of people weren't sure how this fight was going to play out. We weren't sure how cagey it was going to be. Very similar to Fury versus Usyk 1, a fight where we all thought it was going to be very cagey and it turned into something great, and that's what Better Biev Bivol was. For me, it was one of the best fights of the year, especially as a boxing purist. It was a fight of just such a high level, but a high level where it was still entertaining, and there was so much action within those 12 rounds that the two shared for Undisputed. And they run it back in just under 2 months' time now as recording this. So yeah, easy for me, the honourable mention. But the winner, it has to be Fabio Wardley versus Fraser Clark 1. When you talk about blood, guts, passion, and leaving it all in the ring, that's what they did. Fabio Wardley and Fraser Clark. They left every little bit of energy they had in the ring. You could see the exhaustion on Fraser Clark after the fight when he was sat down on the ropes, knackered. You could see the exhaustion. You could see the wear and tear on Fabio Wardley's face with a horrible cut on his nose. And at points during the fight, a face covered with blood. There should be a photo on the screen now of his face during the fight. A real fight that had a bit of everything. And a fight that took so much attention from not just the UK side of the world, but global boxing fans were watching this fight and heard about this fight, and that's what made it so good. And we could see that they reaped their rewards by then getting the rematch out in Saudi. While the rematch played out nothing like the first fight, the efforts of the first fight that they both put in opened that door for them to announce themselves properly to the global stage. And what a lot of us thought was going to be a repeat of the first fight. Obviously, Fabio Wardley had other intentions, clearly. Um, but for me, Fabio Wardley Fraser Clark won. There was no better fight last year. It had every bit of everything that you want in a boxing fight. It had excitement, it had drama, it had thrill. Um, it is the top of my list. There's no better. You won't find much better fight than that for a very, very long time, in my opinion. Moving on to Fighter of the Year. My honorable mention has to be Daniel Dubois. Um, if you sat here back in 2020, 2021, saying headed into 2025, Daniel Dubois is going to be an IBF heavyweight world champion and hold a real statement piece in boxing's glamour division, in the division where if the heavyweight division's thriving, boxing's thriving. If the heavyweight division's dead, boxing goes a little bit dead. The heavyweights hold the biggest part in drawing in the attention. And we could see that with, obviously, compare Fury Usyk crowd to Better Be a Bivol. The crowd for Fury Usyk in the first fight was exceptional. And you go to Better Be a Bivol, which is such a similar level fight in the sense of it was two dominants and two greats of the division going head to head. And there was so much more of a buzz in the general public because of Fury Usyk, because it's the heavyweights. Whereas we didn't get that at Better Be a Bivol. So when I say the heavyweight division is thriving, boxing's thriving, it's obvious to see. You can see that. And Daniel Dubois is now one of those household names in the heavyweight division globally because of the 2024 that he had. If we're going to include that last part of 2023 when he overcame Jerome Miller in a fight, that was really tough for him. It was a really, really tough fight for Daniel Dubois, especially coming off the back of the Usyk fight. And he had a 330-pound undefeated Jerome Miller coming at him for 10 rounds. It was a very tough fight, and he came through and stopped him at the very, very back end. Then you come on to June this year, where he took on June last year now, sorry, where he took on Filip Hrgović. Again, a fight where there was adversity. It wasn't going his way at times. And there were times where it looked like he could have probably, the Daniel Dubois of 2020 would have got demoralised by the shots that Filip Hrgović was landing. Filip Hrgović was landing very often and very frequently with that straight right hand. Daniel Dubois weathered that storm, which was something new. He bit down and he worked his way through. And that was something we hadn't seen from Daniel Dubois before. We hadn't seen him show this much grit and determination to get through. And with that grit and determination, we then saw a new side of Daniel Dubois where he was then giving it back. It's not that like those right hands were landing often and early in the fight, and that didn't stop him. And goes on to beat up Filip cut his face up like mad, and goes on to stop him. Just exceptional, exceptional work from Daniel Dubois. Love or hate the defense in that fight. The game plan, in a sense, worked, and I'm not talking about the game plan that they drilled in training camp, but the game plan that they had to go for on fight night, which was weather the storm and dish it out late, and that's what Daniel Dubois did. It was perfect. It was a great performance. Then you go on to what you have to say was probably the event of the year and the occasion of the year. At Wembley Stadium, Riyadh season, London, Daniel Dubois topped the bill against Anthony Joshua. And it was an Anthony Joshua filled arena, not arena, stadium. 96,000 in there. And not many of them believed Daniel Dubois had a chance. But there was something when those ring walks started. I know this has been said many times. I'm going to say it as well. But you could see that there was a different look in the eye of Daniel Dubois to Anthony Joshua. I can't remember who said it to me best, but someone said it. Someone said it in an interview that I did. Um, when the fight started, Daniel Dubois was already in round two, but the fight was only just starting for Anthony Joshua. Daniel Dubois was ready to go, and AJ wasn't, and that's the simple fact. Anthony Joshua came into that fight, and the whole of the British public thinking, yeah, this is it, this is history making. Anthony Joshua's going to cement himself in that top tier of heavyweights as a three-time heavyweight world champion. Daniel Dubois come in as a defending champion, and at the time, in many people's eyes, he wasn't the champion. This was a fight for the vacant title in a lot of people's eyes. But you have to remember, Daniel Dubois came in with that IBF title as the champion. First defense of the belt in a stage that he's never been on before, and a stage where people weren't sure how Daniel Dubois was going to react to such a crowd. Daniel Dubois didn't even know the crowd was there. He was so locked in. As soon as he got in that ring, on his way to the ring, he was just feeling the music, and it was the perfect choice of ring walk music for him because it was music that got him hyped up and got him ready. He gets in that ring, and as soon as he stepped in, he was ready to go. Anthony Joshua comes in and had a bit of a lethargic look about him, but let's not take away from Daniel Dubois' performance. Daniel Dubois was on the ball, ready to go from the start, and he let Anthony Joshua know he landed a clean right hand in the first like minute of the fight, dropped him in the first. I'm pretty sure dropped him again in the second, dropped him in the third, finished him in the fifth, and with what could be up there, it was probably one of the knockouts of the year as well. It was that good. Um, Honestly, a sensational 2020-24 and a life-changing 2020-24 for Daniel Dubois, especially coming off the Joe Joyce loss back in 2020 when a lot of people thought Daniel Dubois, there's a lot of slander getting thrown on Daniel Dubois' name. And if we were to sit here now and say who would we have thought would be a world champion heading into 2025, we would have said Joe Joyce. But Daniel Dubois rips up the script. It's what he loves doing. He loves ripping up a script, doesn't he? But moving on to my fighter of the year. Oleksandr Usyk. No doubt about it. No if, buts, or maybes. Oleksandr Usyk is the fighter of the year. Two fights last year, both against Tyson Fury. The elite versus the elite, should I say? Not the elites versus the elites. It's the two elites in the division going head to head. And Oleksandr Usyk just finds a way. Like normally, obviously, the big saying's been a good little guy. No, a good big guy beats a good little guy. But Oleksandr Usyk isn't just a good little guy. He's an exceptional talent. He's a mastermind when he gets in the ring, and that's something that I just feel like no matter how big you are, how strong you are, you need more than that to beat Oleksandr Usyk. And don't get me wrong, Tyson Fury came very close in the first fight. The first fight was a closer contested fight than the second fight, in my opinion. Um, but Usyk's just got that thing, and Tony Bellew said it best. He just downloads data on you, and I think Anthony Crolla said it to me best. Um, Someone like Usyk, your best chance to beat him is the first time you fight him. If you don't beat him in that first fight, good luck in the second fight because he already has 12 rounds of data on you now, as well as all the footage he's going to have watched in training camp. And he showed that. The way he controlled the ring in the second fight and forced Fury back, despite Fury coming in 20 pounds heavier than the first fight, he forced him back. He made it uncomfortable for him. And in that second fight, it looked like Fury just ran out of ideas. And something that's so criminally underrated with Oleksandr Usyk is that body work. Um, the way he just stabs to the body with a jab or a straight right down low, it really does get you. Why you don't feel it in the moment? it breaks you down gradually. You start here, and it's not like Usyk goes from gets you here and gets you down to here straight away. He takes it on a little slope, and the longer the fight goes, the more he'll start to take over. Usyk is a master of round 7 to 12. He makes those rounds his. There's no doubt about it. We saw it in the first fight with Fury, and we saw it in the second. And in the first fight with Fury, it was even more sensational how he took over. We had never seen Fury hurt so badly. And out of everyone Fury's fought, Dillian White, flipping Deontay Wilder, Vladimir Klitschko, the person that got him rocked as bad as what he had been in that ring that night was Oleksandr Usyk, the man who a lot of people would say doesn't have a lot of power at heavyweight. He might not have a lot of power at heavyweight, but he's still got heavyweight power. Yeah. The way he had ties, you could have stopped that fight. I'll say now that fight could have easily been stopped. I don't think anyone in the world would have complained about it. Not one person. Fury was out on his feet. And it shows great recovery skills from Fury as well, don't get me wrong. But just everything about Usyk is exceptional. I don't think there's one flaw in his game. And it's going to take a tough, tough man to beat him. Obviously, as we know right now, we don't know what's next for Usyk. Obviously, Dubois wants the rematch, but Dubois has a tough test with Joseph Parker coming up. We've got to see what happens. We've got to see how it all unfolds in this heavyweight division right now. But for me, 2024 Fight of the Year, Oleksandr Usyk, without a doubt. Moving on, Knockout of the Year. I'm going to have to go with my honourable mention. I've gone for Angelo Leo versus Luis Alberto Lopez. At the time, Luis Alberto Lopez was really riding the high of winning the world title against Josh Warrington in Leeds, then defending it for the first time against Michael Conlan in Belfast. He's gone on away soil both times at this point. Then he's gone and strung up together, I think, one or two good wins as the home fighter on a top ranked show. Coming into this Angelo Leo fight again, Luis Alberto Lopez, massive favourite. Angelo Leo, relatively unknown at the time to a lot of people. And round 10, Angelo Leo lands one of the cleanest left hooks, sorry, of the year, and puts Luis Alberto Lopez out cold. Obviously, after the fight, it was then revealed that Luis Alberto Lopez actually had a bleed on the brain. So, from myself and everyone at SecondsOut, we do wish him the best and hope he makes a full recovery. But to win the world title like that, when your back was against the wall, when you were kind of just brought in as the opponent, you weren't brought in as a 50-50 big fight type of fighter. You were brought in as you're the opponent. You're going to make him look good here. So be it. And he just, again, ripped up the script. A very, very big theme of sometimes these big knockouts. And that leads me on to the knockout of the year, which I've already broke down. Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois, and Daniel Dubois' fifth round knockout. Strip away the whole performance beforehand and just go into that fifth round. Daniel Dubois gets hit with a very clean right hand, a very, very clean right hand, in fact, that does wobble him a little bit. And he backs himself up. And then, obviously, don't wrong, Kay, there was the mistakes on Anthony Joshua's end of people saying he threw the uppercut from a million miles away. He was way too far out of range, and I get that. But in that moment, again, Dubois' back was against the wall. I'm saying that a lot, I know, but it's true. His back was against the wall. And it looked like Anthony Joshua could have finished him in that moment, and everyone would have forgot about what happened in the previous 4 rounds if he had stopped him in that moment. And Daniel Dubois just throws an overhand right and catches him so clean on the chin. And again, we've never seen Anthony Joshua in a state like that. We've seen Anthony Joshua hurt before, yes, but we've never seen him out like that. And that was the ridiculous part of it. And it was also the sense of, again, ripping up the script, the occasion, and it being billed as Anthony Joshua's night to become a 3-time world champion. And Daniel Dubois just said, no, not today. Ripped it up, put him out cold. It was a beautiful stoppage from Daniel Dubois. My knockout of the year. My upsets of the year. I'll go straight in with my honourable mention. It has to be Jaime Munguia's loss to Bruno Soares. Let me set the scene here. Fighters work to have a homecoming night. A night where you're fighting in the city where you were born and raised. And it's so easy for you to get your friends and your family and anyone else you want to come down to be there. And Jaime Munguia got that. He got that homecoming. And that dream that a fighter has can very quickly turn to a nightmare when the events of what occurred in that ring happened, as Bruno Soares just put an end to that homecoming celebration by putting Jaime Munguia out cold in the 6th round. Despite not having a lot of success in the fight early on, with Jaime Munguia dropping him very early on, being very dominant and controlling the fight, Bruno Soares, who only had, I think, about 4 knockouts at the time, obviously now 5, He just ripped up the script, a straight right hand onto the temple. And Jaime Munguia was just scrambled. He could not beat the count. The referee had to call it off as soon as he hit 10. He hit 10. Jaime Munguia was not okay. He got to his feet, but he was in no state to continue. Um, and yeah, it was an absolute shock. I remember waking up the next morning. I was traveling back from Liverpool and scrolling through Twitter and reading about it and watching the knockout. I'm like, if that's not the upset of the year, I don't know what is. And I know I'm contradicting myself now by only giving that as the honourable mention, but let me move on to my winner. It has to be Bakram Murtazaliev versus Tim Tszyu. And again, Tim Tszyu's first fight back from the defeat to Sebastian Fundora, in where he was cut really badly, a bloody battle, blood all down his face. This was his first fight back, and this was his chance to remind everyone the IBF super welterweight title on the line. It was a chance to remind everyone that this is who Tim Tszyu is. Unfortunately, Bakram Murtazaliev had other plans and went out there and put on a clinical display over 3 rounds, a very, very dominant display. A display where there was absolutely no uproar when the fight was stopped. Murtazaliev was just on a different level that night. He was an unbeatable beast. And for me, the biggest upset of the year, because we'd never seen Tim Tszyu in such a bad state, and we'd never seen him as easily beaten as what he was that night. And I know I'm not saying he was easily beaten because he gave up. Murtazaliev was just on a different level, and Tim Tszyu could not compete at that level. So for me, it has to be right up there. I remember staying up and watching the fight because it was on Amazon Prime. I was in shock. I was in absolute shock when that fight finished. I was like, just not even from when the fight finished, from the first bell, and you see what Murtazaliev was doing. There was no other emotion other than shock and just disbelief in what you were seeing. You were like, is this really happening? Is this actually what's going on? Like, it was a mental fight to watch. But moving on to my final category, round of the year. Honorable mention, which I was very tempted to put at number one, but you've got to factor in the level that these fighters are competing at. So my honorable mention is Abdullah Mason versus Johan Vasquez, the first round. We never like to see prospects tested so early at the time. There's always a lot of uproar about it when a prospect gets dropped. A prospect has a tough fight, but Abdullah Mason dealt with the adversity perfectly for his first time getting dropped, his first time being in a tough fight like that. I've never seen someone remain so calm, and that first round was just pure drama. Obviously, Johan Vasquez drops Abdullah Mason early. Abdullah Mason comes back out and then drops him, and then Johan Vasquez, with no legs under him, by the way, went and dropped Abdullah Mason again. Okay, a lot of errors maybe have been made, maybe holding his feet too much and getting a little bit greedy and standing in range. But the way he responded to the adversity was what I really rated, and not just responding to it, but then going out there the way he did and stopping him the next round. It was one of those fights where you just sit there and you're just like, it's such a short burst of just action and drama, and a fight that you do walk away from being like, wow, that was good, and that was good, and it shows that Abdullah Mason not only has the skills, but has the balls on him to stay in there when it gets tough. And some fighters do lack that in this sport, and Abdullah Mason does have that. He passed that chin check, he passed the acid test. While that might have not been the desired acid test, it became one, and he passed it with flying colours, in my opinion. So fair play to him. But my winner for round of the year is Jesse Bam Rodriguez versus Estrada, June 29th last year. Wow, round 6. Wow. Again, Jesse Bam Rodriguez was just controlling the fight so nicely. It was a dominant display. And it looked like he was getting ready to get Estrada out of there. Round 6 comes around, literally within the first 30 seconds, Estrada lands a crisp right hand on the chin of Bam. And Bam just goes down. You see him stumble back a little bit. He goes down, and we're like, whoa, 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 what's going on here? And then from there, it just leads to great action, just unbelievable action. And Bam just showing why he's not only one of the best, but one of the most exciting fighters in this sport. And again, passing that chin check, while he's probably had things like that before, and he's probably been tested earlier on, he's passed out at that top level as well now. And he's shown that he's really about it. Even though he'd already shown it before, he reminded us that he's really about it. And for me, yeah, round of the year, without a doubt. It could have been up there for knockout of the year with the body shot that he landed in the following round. Again, just showing how good he is. And for such a young man as well. I know I'm young, but when we talk boxing fighters, and in terms of the level he's at and the age he is, it's ridiculous the level he's competing at for a 24-year-old. So yeah, my round of the year winner and the final award I'm giving out for today is Jesse Bam Rodriguez versus Estrada round 6. That is all from me, everyone. Thank you all for watching as always. Let me know down in the comments below if you agree with my opinions or if you've got anyone else, if you've got any other honorable mentions or award winners for any of the categories that I've listed in this video. But until I next see you all, again, thank you for watching. I'll see you all again very soon. Adios.